بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد إخوة الإسلام عباد الله. Without a doubt, during this time of Ramadan, we're reading and reflecting the Quran more, pondering over the lessons that are found therein. And one of the chapters that we'll most definitely read is Surah Yusuf, where it talks about the life of Yusuf and some of the trials that he faced and endured. We know from what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentions to us that Yusuf, his brothers plotted to kill him at one point. They placed him in a well and abandoned him there. This is another without a doubt a calamity. 3, travelers found him and considered him to be nothing more than merchandise. Yani he was a slave, to the point that they even sold him for a measly price. Another calamity or trial that he had to face was that the home of the man that he was in, that man's wife, when he attained age, attempted to seduce him on more than one occasion, and he had to fight the temptations, fight off that temptation. All right. Likewise, we know that he was imprisoned for years. He was imprisoned for years. These are tremendous trials that he had to face as a youth and in manhood. But despite these trials and these calamities, when Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala removed these calamities from him and placed him in a state of prosperity, because we know, as Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentions, he was given authority over the kingdom. I mean, he was over the financial centers of the kingdom within Egypt. So, at this point, when he was in a state of adversity, and mentioning to his brothers, Allah mentions what he said in Surah Yusuf. So he quotes him as saying, "إنه من يتقي ويصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين." He stated that undoubtedly, whoever has taqwa and is patient and acts patiently, then Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will not cause the rewards of the good doers to be lost. He will not cause the rewards of the good doers to be lost. So in this particular statement of Yusuf is a lesson for us. Why? Because he is mentioning the very means to overcome these trials and these calamities. And he mentions taqwa and patience. Taqwa and patience. Taqwa meaning you set up a shield between yourself and between the punishment of Allah by implementing what he loves and staying away from what he hates. Patience, yani you restrict yourself, you refrain, you confine yourself. But what are you confining yourself to? You're confining yourself to Allah's obedience. You're confining yourself from, meaning away from, disobedience to Allah. And you're confining yourself as it relates to the painful decree of Allah. Meaning, when Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala ordains for a person to have to undergo these types of trials and calamities similar to the calamities that Yusuf went through. That if you have that taqwa during these calamities and you are patient throughout these calamities, then this will be a means to your overcoming these calamities and a means to your success. This is very important because we know that this dunya is not scratch free. It's not scratch free. We're going to be faced with trials. We're going to be tested. We're going to have to endure hard times and or difficult times. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ clearly illustrated in numerous authentic narrations. One such narration is that which is collected by Imam al-Bukhari from leading back to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, where he stated, خَطَّ النَّبِي صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ خَطًّا مُرَبِّعًا, that the Prophet ﷺ, he drew a square. He drew a square. وَخَطَّ خَطًّا فِي الْوَسَطِ خَارِجًا مِنْهُ, and then he drew a line in the middle of that square, extending down the middle, exiting the square. وَخَطَّ خُطُوطًا صِغَارًا إِلَى هَذَا الْوَسَطِ, then he drew smaller lines إِلَى هَذَا الَّذِي فِي الْوَسَطِ مِنْ جَانِبِهِ الَّذِي فِي الْوَسَطِ, he drew smaller lines on the sides of that middle line, like headed towards the middle line, but on the sides of it. Then he stated, when explaining what he drew, he says, هَذَا الْإِنسَانِ, meaning the line in the middle of the box, this is a person. وَهَذَا أَجْلَهُ مُحِيطٌ بِهِ, and the square is his appointed term that surrounds him. وَهَذَا الَّذِي هُوَ خَارِجٌ أَمَلُهُ, and the portion of the line that was outside of the square is the person's hopes, what he hopes in. وَهَذِهِ الْخُطُوطَ الصِّغَارِ الْأَعْرَاضِ, and these smaller lines, they're trials, they're calamities. And then he says something that, all of this is a lesson, but he says something that we should really reflect on. فَإِنْ أَخْطَأَهُ هَذَا نَهَشَهُ هَذَا وَإِنْ أَخْطَأَهُ هَذَا نَهَشَهُ هَذَا. So if this, referring to one small line, if this calamity misses him, this other one will overtake him. And if this calamity misses him, then the other one will overtake him. So this is the reality of this dunya, that this dunya is not scratch free, that we will have good times, and then there'll be difficult times. There'll be times of trial. There'll be times of hardship, and thus forth and so on. But how we conduct ourselves during these times of hardship, these times of difficulties, these times of trials, these times of tribulations will determine if we're either successful or we're the opposite to that. And this is why this line by the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, it's a lesson for us. It is a lesson for us, for those that give thought and reflect. And so I just wanted to present this and not be too long-winded, but that was definitely, when I was reading Surah Yusuf the other day, I definitely stopped and contemplated on that statement of Yusuf alayhi salam. And I pray that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala makes us, first and foremost, accepts our fast during this month and makes us all better Muslims after the month has concluded. And with that, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.